frustrating and angering, and you just want him to shut the fuck up. I swear, like, I would be so angry reading this book every single day. Like, I would be genuinely so upset. This is such an interesting book because I feel like it truly challenges us, because this book was so angry at her. Like, I felt like a friend that was so disappointed in their friend. And okay, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this is the third one. Yes, this is the every 2-month book review. Today we're gonna review everything I read in the month of May and June. Now it is still like maybe the 21st of June. Yeah, but I do think that the books that I'm currently reading are not gonna be done this month, so they're gonna be done in July. So I thought, you know what the heck, let's just do this now and get it out of the way. Let's get this party started.
Hi. Hello.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's get this party started, shall we? No. Girl. Okay, so let's get this party started. The last time I talked to you guys, I told you about Metamorphosis. Technically, I did read Metamorphosis in May, so that was like one of my books. I love Metamorphosis, by the way. Highly recommend if you haven't read Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. But after Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, I read a political book. Now, do not walk away from this video. Not every single book I'm going to talk about is political, but this specific one is. I mean, I have one that's slightly political after this, but majority of the books I read are not political, so you don't have to worry about that. I am so sorry, but my cat is rubbing up against you right now. So yeah, I don't know, she has been ignoring me the entire day, and I don't know why. Once I started filming, she's like, yeah, actually I want attention now, and I want you to love me, and I want you to talk to me. And suddenly I'm interested in you again. Okay, the first book that I read was a political book. Is called Soft Power by Joseph Nye Jr. I think that's how you say his last name. Nye? I think so. Nye? Not sure. This book, if I could summarize this book with 2 words, it would be American propaganda. Okay? American propaganda. Hated this book. I hated this book with fucking passion. Every single morning when I read this book, I would literally get so triggered and I would have high blood pressure because of this book. Now, I came into this book not knowing anything and not knowing what's going to be about. I just thought it was gonna talk about soft power, and that's what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more about soft power. The writer of this book is I think the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. This was written in 2003. So during the Iraq War. Now, I didn't know this. I'm a historian, okay? So reading this book, I was so fucking frustrated because this book is just basically a lot of racism, a lot of Orientalism, and a lot of Islamophobia coupled up together. Instead of talking and intellectualizing the concept of soft power and talking about it from an intellectual point of view, from an academic point of view, this man goes on for fucking hours about literally the American message, American patriotism, American democracy, American values, and then he's just spewing a bunch of American propaganda, and it gets to a point where it's so frustrating and angering, and you just want him to shut the fuck up. I swear, like, I would be so angry reading this book every single day. Like, I would be genuinely so upset. I wrote a 3 pages review on my notebook, on my journal, and I think it is a really good review, so I'm going to read it out for you guys, okay? So over here I said the author was assistant to Secretary of Defense, so he wasn't the Secretary of Defense but an assistant to the Secretary of Defense, okay? I wrote, so okay, the author was the assistant to the Secretary of U.S. Defense, so basically a propagandist. The, the book discusses soft power, which is the power to influence outcomes without coercion, blackmail, and hard power, which is the military/violence. The start of the book, the author goes on a tangent about how everybody hates the United States of America. While discussing that, he flexes all the things that the United States is top at. Obviously, he wants you to reach a conclusion that people hate the United States of America because they're jealous of them. He goes on such a long tangent about this, where he's like, we're number one at this, we're number one at that, and people are just so jealous of us. Like, he doesn't say it outright, obviously, but the way he phrases it and the way he's drawing it up and the way he's writing it down, you clearly reach the conclusion that he wants you to think that we all just hate the United States because we're so jealous that we're not as good as them. And it was so tone deaf to me, because it's like, that's not why people hate the United States of America, and that's not why people criticize the United States of America. At this point, I wrote in my phone app the following. The author, so yeah, that I would write notes on my phone app because I would get so angry, which is something I literally have never done before. So this was getting to me. And I think, you know what? I'll talk about this a little bit more, okay? The author doesn't seem to understand a very important concept. People don't hate the America because they're jealous of American excellency. We hate America for their constant interference and wars. Chapters, he argues how only the United States is hated despite the United States not being number one in everything. Again, clearly not understanding that that's not the reason why people hate the United States. He mentions how Britain is number one in music label, and Japan is number one in video games and game consoles, and yet only Americans are the ones that are hated. He can't fathom that it has nothing to do with them being a monopoly in everything, and everything to do with the fact that they're a powerful modern colonial power that constantly threatens everything simply because they disagree with them. So yeah, as you can see, I was genuinely upset that day and wrote down all of that. But let me continue. It's truly astonishing that as he wrote the Middle East paragraph, he couldn't see the blatant anti-Arab racism that he was spewing. He did, but he just simply didn't care. Joseph Nye genuinely and truly argues that the reason why Arabs, specifically in particular, he was talking about Muslims, and then in particular Arabs, okay? So I just want you to listen to this, okay? Hates the United States of America because of the Arab inability to modernize. Yes, that's not racist. So yeah, we hate them because we can't beat them, and the reason why... Girl, I swear to God. Let me continue. So yeah, he genuinely, okay, was talking about the fact the reason why we hate the United States of America and the Arabs hate the United States of America is because we cannot be as modern as them. And because of our inability to be modern, we start hating them because we just can't be like them. It's so racist. So incredibly racist. During the Iraq War, the Middle Easterners were boycotting US products. And because the Arab population is incapable of critical thought and a clear reaction to the US foreign policy, no, it's the Islamists. Yes, they are influencing the Arabs to be anti-American, and that's why we should influence the Arab to love the US. Because you see, the Arabs are a group of people who are utterly incapable of forming any thought of their own without the influence of others. That's what got to me the most, is that he completely, and this is definitely, like, this is an Orientalist point of view, by the way, but this is definitely something I see quite frequently, and it's always discussed about us, is that there always has to be someone that's influencing us. We're not capable of having our own agency and having our own thoughts and our own ideas and our own forms of critical thinking and conclusions. No, someone's influencing us. It's either the Islamists or it's the West. There's either or. We're not capable of actually thinking and making conclusions ourselves. He can't fathom that people were boycotting US products during the Iraq War because of the devastation that the Iraq War caused to the Middle Easterners and to Iraqis. He doesn't understand that it's solidarity. No, it must be because of the Islamists. It's the reactionary Islamists and the fundamentalists that are telling us what to do. And because we're a bunch of idiots and we just don't have capabilities of thought processes. We're just gonna listen to what the Islamists say, or we're gonna listen what the West says. We're just a bunch of fucking bonds in their fucking game, and we're just a bunch of idiots. I hate that so much. This truly gets to me, and I really don't understand how anyone can write this. It's such like an Orientalist point of view, and it truly is frustrating when it is held by people in power, because these people literally control our lives. They control our fucking existence. So when they say shit like this and they believe shit like this, that truly affects us. That would literally cause our death. And he kept going on and on about how, you know, we do think that Saddam Hussein was a dictatorship, and we were still angry at the United States of America for, you know, their invasion of Iraq. How way that they would just say that because, you know, of how brutal the invasion is and how it led to the death of 1 million Iraqi citizens and how it completely destabilized the region and increased Islamophobia across the world. No, it mustn't be about that. It must be because the Arabs are dumbasses who just listen to reactionary Islamists. Yes, that's it. That's it. Yes. Author continues by describing different policies, like spreading a specific narrative. As he says, that's not propaganda. No, that's just spreading image of the country. That's not propaganda. Now, spreading disinformation during war, which are psyops, and his favorite is to bring people to the United States of America to study/train, where they're later made into world leaders and become US allies. This is obviously very compelling, since we always talk about this in the Middle East, but are always shut down as that being a bunch of conspiracy. By the way, speaking of conspiracy theories, okay, the author argues that the argument that the weapons of destruction in the Iraq is a lie that the US made in order to invade Iraq is a conspiracy. Then, okay, we have discovered that it was indeed a lie. Glad that I read this book, as it truly helped me to sit and critically dismantle some of the propaganda in this book. Further, it was truly a form of confirmation of my worldview. Regardless, I'm glad that the Biden and Trump administrations are effectively ruining the US's and Western nations' soft power by their undying support for is not real. Okay, so that is my complete review of this book. I give this book 1 star. The only 1 star I gave here is because it proved to me that we were right all along. But it truly was frustrating, like the Middle Eastern parts, because I'm Middle Eastern. I know very well about Middle Eastern affairs. I would just see the blatant lies and propaganda and just disgusting, like I just wanted a book, like I said, that would intellectualize the term soft power and give us, you know, examples and of different countries around the world. If I wanted to read a bunch of Orientalist, Islamophobic, racist takes, I would have just opened Twitter. The next book I read was the James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. I don't know what I thought. Like I said, I stopped looking up books. I just started reading the books without looking them up. So this was one of them. I didn't know what this book was about. I came into this with, you know, a completely completely blinded to what it was about. This is probably one of the best written books I've ever read in my life. He is such an amazing writer. James Baldwin, I'm definitely going to read more books for him because he just writes so beautifully. His writing is so captivating. Like, you would read this book and you would just not want to put it down because of how well the writing is. I hated Giovanni, okay? I just want to put that out there. I hated David and I hated Giovanni. And for some reason, I know that David is white. And I remember that he said he was white. But for some reason, I forgot about that, in halfway through the book, and I kept imagining him as black, and then later on was like, oh right, he's white, and then I'm like, I cannot unsee the fact that he's black. So the entire time I'm imagining David to be a black man, okay? But anyway, hated Giovanni and I hated David and I hated every single character in this book. But it was such a good book. It's such a tragic book. It is definitely very political. It's so horrible. Everyone here is toxic. Giovanni is very toxic in the way he talks about women, which was a very good reminder that, you know how a lot of people talk about this, is that, you know, gay men are still men. So they're still very misogynistic. Yeah, like you could read the misogyny in this book. But David is such a horrible character because he was like constantly on and leading on David, and then in the end he just fucking dumps him. Spoiler alert, I guess. I don't know. It was a really beautifully written book, and that's what kept me going. Because to be honest, I hated everyone in this book. So if it weren't for James Baldwin writing, I would have not continued reading this book. This book is so tragic and it's very sad, very depressing. I just want to say that first. So coming into this, you'll have to know that. But it is a really, really good book. I highly recommend it, actually. The third book is a physical book this time, which is the Welcome to the Hyunam-dong bookshop by Boreum. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know I talk about this book quite a lot. I've also written an article, a Substack article, I will link it below, inspired a little bit by this book. This book is so good. The review onto here that says a poem for the soul and a glorious love letter to books and reading. A poem to the soul is exactly what this is. It is such a beautiful book. It follows Youngju, who was a major workaholic. She was also in a relationship I think that she wasn't very happy in, and she was so burnt out and exhausted and tired. So she leaves her marriage, she leaves her job, and she goes back to her love for books, because when she was younger she loved books. She would read books every day, and so her dream was to always open a bookshop. So she opens the hyunam-dong bookshop. Basically the whole book just follows Youngju and the barista, who's Minjeon, who's the barista, and all the different characters that come into here, and all like the different characters from the neighborhood. It is such a beautiful book. It discusses so many important things like mental health, work ethics, work-life balance, happiness. It is such a deep and profound book. It's the type of book that as you read, you kind of have to sit there and like process what you just read and write it down. I wrote a lot of journal entries because of this book. This is just a very healing book, very profound book, and it's just very gentle. Like, I love this book so much. I cannot wait to forget what happens and then get the chance to reread this book, because it truly was it's just a beautiful novel. Like, I loved it so much, and it was truly inspiring, I think, in my opinion, to just like inspires you to think and to genuinely contemplate life and contemplate things, and it's just such a good book. I highly recommend it. That smell. I give this book a 4.5 out of 5, and the reason it's a 4.5 out of 5 and not a 5 out of 5 is because honestly it could have been longer. A short book. It is around 300 pages, is it? Yeah, it's 301 pages, but I love this book so much that I want it more, okay? And that's the only bad thing about this book, is I wish there was more of it. But in this book, they mention another book, because they were talking about a book club. Oh, I opened the exact page that I wanted. They were talking about a book club, and in the book club, they all read this book, and they were talking about it. David Frayne, The Refusal of Work, The Theory and Practice of Resistance to Work, okay? This is the book they talked about here, and I am so incredibly interested in that idea and interested in this. So when they started talking about this, I was like, that is the most interesting thing ever. I'm gonna go read this book. So I read that book, and not damn, it was such a good book. I really, really, really like this book. This book discusses basically work-life balance and also the work ethics and work environment underneath capitalism. It discusses sort of the morality and the ethics of work ethics and also work-life balance and also the work environment underneath capitalism. And the author discusses on how there is something he calls a spiritual cost, which is the cost that you forgo in order to work and 9 to 5. He also doesn't look at work hours as from 9 to 5. He also talks about the time that you have to do and the things you have to do to prep to go to work, and also the things you have to do to sort of unwind from work. And he considers all of that part of work hours. So what ends up happening is you have no time for yourself. You have no time to pursue your hobbies, your life interests, your spend time with your families, your partners, your friends. Your life essentially cease to exist so that you could work every single day. And also inside of work, you're miserable. You feel like you're just a clog in the machine. You work every day, day in, day out, and it's so exhausting. So the whole book discusses that and discusses the morality of that. And he's basically advocating for less work hours so that people can actually have the time to live life outside of work, and how we can achieve that and how we can do that. And he also discusses some few people that have actually done, like have actively done this. Either they decreased their work hours or they stopped working altogether. And also how do they feel? He interviews them and he gives you sort of their thought processes and their story and how they came to that conclusion. This is such an interesting book because I feel like it truly challenges us, because we kind of grew up in an environment where we look down on unemployed people. We use the words leeches, freeloaders, like for people who don't work, and people who don't want to dedicate their whole lives to work. We call them lazy. We make fun of them, etc. And then we glorify this sacrifice towards work, and most of the times it's towards a company that treats you like shit, that doesn't like you. How many times have you guys worked in a company which you didn't agree with the ethics of it, but it didn't even matter because you had no voice in it? And he discusses that as well. It's such a complex subject. I definitely came out of this with a different mindset. I mean, I have an economics degree. This was kind of touched upon in my classes, and my professors would often ask us if it's truly worth it to work 11 months of your life so that you could get 1 month off. And they would often ask us stuff like this, and it was definitely something that I had thought about before, but I'm not into this extent. That this book really truly gets into the nitty-gritty of this. He always uses a writer who I definitely want to look him up and look his writing up because I really love it. But he calls himself an advocate for he says that the reason why he talks about this and the reason why he advocates for less work hours is because he is an advocate for human freedom. That truly resonated with me because I also want human freedom. I think the freedom to be who you are and to do what you want and to pursue things that are far more deep than just work is something that I think about a lot. And I think it's so very important. He discusses also like how, it's also, there's a lot of privilege involved. It's something that people cannot not just work. And but when he interviews people, there's a lot of people that are poor and that did do this, but they aren't living like live, laugh, love. They are struggling, and he talks about their struggle a lot. So it's such an interesting book. I highly recommend. But in there, he talks about something. So one of the people that he was talking to said that he experienced something called a mini utopia. A mini utopia is basically an event in which you experience what life could be and how work isn't everything. And after you experience that mini utopia, it's so hard for you to see the work hours in the workplace the same way because you've experienced something so profound and so nice that you cannot fall back into that that hustle, right? Into that grind. I think this book was written 2007. I think that's why it wasn't mentioned here, but I think we all lived that mini utopia in 2020 during the pandemic, where everyone worked remotely, and actually for the first time in their fucking life they experienced work-life balance. They started following through their interests and doing things that they loved for the first time in their lives, and they found that there is more to life than work. And I think that was our first experiences with mini utopia that truly pushed people to now, and this is like a trend right now, to now refuse work. I mean, as you guys saw, majority of Gen Z don't look at work as like, oh, a career I have to build. They jump from job to job. They don't really care. And the reason why is because we experienced that mini utopia, right? We experienced that life, what life could be when you're just pursuing the things that you love. And in this book, he sort of advocates that work should just be something necessity we have to do in order to access or to get income that we need to live, but it shouldn't be our existence. It shouldn't be everything that is. We shouldn't center our life with it. And right now we center our lives around it. When he was talking about how he talked to a teenager, and the teenager was like, oh yeah, there was like doing an event, like a voluntary event, and he was like, oh, like, do you have a lot of interest in this? And he goes, no, it will look great on the CV. And he's a teenage kid, like 14, 15, and he's already thinking of his employability. Our lives revolve around work, and also our whole identity revolves around work. And he talks about that in such just a lot of details. He also discusses consumerism, because as he said, you cannot not talk about work hours and not talk about consumerism. Consumerism, to him, is something that people really get into. People work for hours, they have no time to themselves, and the only benefits you get from working is money. And when you make enough for to sustain your basic needs, you have all that extra stuff lying around, you go and you consume, because that gives you a little dopamine shot. He talks about how like we would consume less if we worked less, because then we have time to actually do things ourselves. Like, you order out a lot because you do not have the energy nor the time to go sit and make that food yourself. But if you work less, you would. If you work less, you might grow a garden, and you might cycle more to work because you have more time, and you might do all of these things that are first better for the environment, better for you, and also require less spending because now you work less. Even like big economic figures and also politicians, they're no longer discussing shorter work hours, because right now we have such major unemployment around the world. So that conversation is being talked about less and less, which is also funny, because when I was in college and during our labor economic class, our professor told us that the productivity we got from technological advancement is so high that we could work so much less and still keep up the same output. And our professor was telling us that shorter work hours should have come a lot faster than this, and it is something that is long overdue, and it's something that should happen anytime soon. But again, we don't see that happening because, and as he explains here, capitalists don't want it to happen. And you can read, I'm not gonna sit here and teach you the whole thing, but it's such an amazing book. He explains it in such extreme details. And by the way, he's not anti-work, he's anti-centering your life around work and your existence, and also your personality and your identity around work. He's against that, but he's not against work because he understands that work is actually very important for humans, and I agree with that. I do think that maybe we can just do part-time work for everyone. There is no such thing as full-time work, at least in industries that we could do this. Some industries I don't think. I mean, a trucker, he works part-time. So like he drives for 4 hours then he parks that thing and sleeps. But yeah, let's move on to the next book. Okay, the next book I read is a physical book. It's My Year of Rest and Relaxation to Ottessa Moshfeg. I think that's how you say her name. This book. I don't know how to feel about this book. Like I don't know how I feel about this book. This was my secondary book. What I do is I have a main book that I read more, and then I have a secondary book that I read usually like at night before I go to sleep. I would read like 30-ish to 30, between 15 to 30 minutes. And I don't know, I bought this because everyone was talking about this, and everyone's like, oh, you should totally buy this if like they should totally buy this, whatever. Oh, that's love so small. I don't know what to say about this book. I'm so confused. I still, like, I try to process how I feel about this book, but I'm still very confused. Do I like this book? Yes. Do I also not like this book? Also, yes. I have no idea how I feel towards it. Now, this book follows actually an unnamed protagonist, okay? She is like a Columbia graduate. She's rich. And she's skinny and blonde. And this is set in 2000. So obviously the way they talk about weight and stuff, oh God, it really took me back. But yeah, what happens is she's severely depressed, and because she's severely depressed, she only feels happy. She says that she only feels happy when she's asleep. So because she's so depressed, and she wants to be reborn, so what she wants to do is she wants to sleep every single day for an entire year. That is her plan. And to do so, she goes to this really wacky psychologist who basically will give her any drug she wants. And she gives her a bunch of sleeping pills, and then she starts taking the sleeping pills and sleeping the entire day. That is the whole book. The whole book is just repetition of her waking up and then eating, and then she's telling us how she felt, and then sometimes you get flashbacks to her parents' death. You get flashbacks to her life, before, what got her to this point. You do get these flashbacks, and you do get her motivations to do this, but it still is such a weird book to read. It, first of all, a brilliantly oh my God, I can't say that word anymore. Brilliantly, there we go. You know what I mean, okay? Written book, okay? It's so well written. It's, oh my God, I mean, it's so interesting. When I was reading through this, I genuinely could read through the whole thing really quickly if I wanted to. I could read this in the whole setting, but like I said, I just wanted to read this on the side. So it took me longer, but wow, the book, wow. I saw so many, like, I mean, towards the end of the book, I knew what was gonna happen, because I knew what was gonna happen. I won't ruin it to people, but I really liked the final chapter. I actually genuinely, and even the final sentence of this, and I will not ruin it to you, but I even like underlined it when she said, and there she is, a human being diving into the unknown, and she is wide awake. When she said that, I kind of understood a little bit what this book is about, but also, like, I don't know, this book is weird. This book is so weird. It is, like, when you read this book, first of all, you hate the character. You despise the character, the main character. She's annoying. She's such an annoying person. The way she talks about other people, she's an asshole. And I heard that this specific writer, Ottessa, she really writes very horrible, like, female characters. Like, that's her thing. So it makes sense that she is such an asshole. But I didn't hate her. Like, I found her relatively entertaining. She's an asshole, but she's entertaining. Like, you know, when I read Verity, for example, by Colleen Hoover, that's the only Colleen Hoover book I read. It traumatized me. I hated the main character so much. With this character, she is annoying, but it wasn't enough for me to hate her, okay? I also, like, I feel like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I kind of want to tell people to go read it, but I also saw so many people that hated this book with passion. They were like, this sucks, this is the worst book I've ever read, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it was. To me, that wasn't it at all. And the ending, I actually liked the ending. And A lot of people were like, oh, but like I feel like something more needed to happen towards the end for her to have been reborn, and I agree. It does send a shitty message. It does. But it's still a really, like, I don't know, it's a good book. I still liked it. I still like the ending. It's good and it's bad at the same time. Also, if you're that person who does not like that when there's never a plot to the book and things are always happening, if you're that type of person, don't read this book. Read about depression. I think this book is actually a very good representative of depression. And when I was telling my sister about this book, she's like, oh, okay, basically what we do, but like with drugs. And I'm like, yeah. When we were depressed. But like she just takes drugs. That's the only difference. She takes drugs because she wants to escape. It's escapism. It's a book about escapism because of depression. I don't know what else to say. I will not ruin I did like the ending. Only one more book left, which is the Copenhagen Trilogy by Tove Diltsven. I don't know how to say her last name. It's Danish. No, it's Dutch. Sorry, it's Dutch. So I do not know how to say her last name. But the Copenhagen Trilogy is actually technically 3 books, but it's all in one book, and it's about 300 pages, so it's not that big. And it's childhood, youth, and dependency. I came into this not knowing what it is. I just saw a lot of people talk about it, so I just read it. First of all, it's a memoir. If you had told me it's a memoir, I would not have read this because I don't like memoirs. But this book, amazing. She's such an amazing writer. She will hook you in. This is about Tove's life, so the writer's life. She was born into a working class family in basically Copenhagen, so in Denmark. And she tells you about her life, how her childhood was. And then it goes from childhood into youth when she starts working, etc. And then eventually when she becomes, and then dependencies when she gets married. An amazing book. I actually finished this morning. Really good, really amazing. I loved every single aspect of this book. It was so good. I love the childhood part. I love reading about her childhood. Interesting because they led such different lives than our lives, so reading about it was so interesting. At first I thought it was a fictional book. I thought it was a fictional book, and then one of the characters was like, hey Tove, and I was like, isn't that the name of the writer? And then I like looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a memoir. But at this point I had read enough where I was like, oh my god, I love this book and this is such a good book. It's so good. It's interesting, and seeing how she was interested in poems and in reading, and then how that developed into her becoming a writer and becoming a poet. It's so good. During the dependency part, when she starts getting addicted to drugs, I was so angry at her. Like, I felt like a friend that was so disappointed in their friend and in their dependency on drugs, and the way she would get better but then she would go back, and that I was on the edge of my seat. There was a point where I so angrily was like, I'm done, and I like closed my Kindle and I put it down, like, I'm done reading about her. She's disappointing me, because I feel like when you read these things you want to root for the character to do better, and I was rooting for Tove to do better, and so when she would go back it would upset me. So weird, because I feel so attached to her as a person. I looked it up. She did overdose on sleeping pills and died. She killed herself. This genuinely upset me because I was rooting for this lady. I was rooting for her so hard. And this happened in the fucking 70s. I wasn't even born at this point. But I was like so upset that this happened to her. Such an amazing book. Such an amazing book. I highly recommend you guys read the Copenhagen Trilogy. It's really good. She's an amazing writer. And it's a great memoir. Truly, truly a great memoir. Alright, that's it for now. Right now, I'll tell you guys my current reads. I'm reading 2 books like I always do. For the first one, I'm reading Feminism for the 99% of Manifesto. This is a really short book. I heard about this. My sister talked about this and she's like, it's really good. So I downloaded it to read it. It's really short. It's really short. It's like 60 pages. So I was like, I'm gonna be done with this really quickly. But yeah, so far I'm really liking it. And yeah, I read this in the morning. I just got it. So it's still very early on, but so far I really liked it. Also reading is this, which is the Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. She's the one that wrote Cleopatra and Frankenstein, which I also want to read, but then I learned that she is the author is a both sides person, and which really upset me because I didn't know this. I ordered this book and then my sister was like, oh, I'm sorry to say this, but this author. And I'm like, no! Seeing this book, I'm kind of like, I'm still gonna read this book because I paid for it. Okay, I'm gonna read it. One thing I don't like about this book is how thick the pages are. I don't know how to explain it, but the pages are so thick, and I know maybe that's like a good thing for some people. But for me, it always makes me feel like I missed a page because it feels so thick, and I keep trying to open it, and I'm like, no, I didn't miss a page. It's just really thick. But yeah, and also it makes the book look a lot bigger than it actually is because each page is so thick. I don't know if I liked that. So far I did read like 34 pages. I don't know where this book is going. I mean, 34 pages is quite a bit, and it's kind of weird that I don't know where this book is going. But anyway, I'm liking it thus far, but I don't know. Okay, quite yet. I don't know. I'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's my book reviews for this month. I think that I might finish the manifesto, the Feminism for 99% manifesto, probably this month. So technically, but it's okay. I'll just talk about it next month. Okay, not next month. After 2 months, when I make my next reviews video. So so yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any recommendations for me, like based on what I'm talking about. Is there any book that you like? I kind of like, what I do is I buy like popular books like these and I read them on the side, and then I read books I actually want to read on my Kindle. Let me know if there's any books that you like that you want me to read. Let me know. Give me recommendations, and also if there's any book that I talked about here that you're going to read yourself. So yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.